Hi, good morning. My name's Chris. Welcome back to another Star Trek TNG review. This time it is The Naked Now, episode 3. And immediately after Encounter at Farpoint, they decide to revisit an original story from the original show. And that was called The Naked Time. That's the one with Sulu, and he's got his shirt off and he's swashbuckling down a corridor. That's the famous scene that everyone seems to remember from that episode. And they remade it. They even got the original writer on board. We'll get to that. So let's take a look at the back of the VHS box, get this synopsis that some other professional writer has no doubt drafted and can do a lot better job than I can at explaining it in less than 30 words. Let's take a look. So taking a quick look at the cover art on this box, they've actually gone for the Code of Honor episode, the one that's coming up next with the image, and it's Tasha doing the crane pose from the Karate Kid. Ralph Macchio on the beach doing his training and using it at the end of the film to defeat his baddie. We'll find out whether Tasha can defeat her nemesis in the next episode, Code of Honor. But moving to the back of the box, it says, in fewer than 30 words, in The Naked Now, the Enterprise is infected by a deadly virus which produces the symptoms of intoxication and promiscuity. No one is safe, not even the captain. Dun dun dun. They haven't put that, but it seems appropriate. Running time 46 minutes, and they all are, so I'll stop saying that. Anyway, let's move on to the review. So The Naked Now, this was written originally as The Naked Time by John D.F. Black. That's why his involvement is in it, but he didn't actually do anything with this episode, just literally that it's based upon the original story that he did. That's why he gets a writing credit. DC Fontana, who wrote Encounter at Farpoint, she did the updated version for the TNG, and she didn't like what they did with it ultimately. She wrote the original and then it went through a couple of rewrites and they altered things, and she didn't like it so much that she decided to put her pseudonym on it of J. Michael Bingham in the credits. Director's Paul Lynch. He goes on to do 4 more episodes of TNG down the line, and I think he does better work later on. Probably because everything just improves as the show wears on. The crew gets better, the cast get better, everyone just gets better at their jobs. And you return as director, I'm sure you're thinking, my god, it wasn't this nice when I came last time. Everything just feels nice. So his better work is to come. I think in an interview he did say he thought this was one of his better projects, but we'll talk about that later on. So Rick Berman stated that it's a homage to the original. I'd just forget about the whole it's the same as that other episode of Star Trek. Just take it as this episode. It's just an episode of Star Trek with another story. It's very, very, very similar to the one that was in TOS, but just forget about the TOS version. This one does show that the cast have got chemistry and they've got the acting chops, I would say, to keep going ahead with this. It's not a standout episode in season 1 when you compare it to many of the others that are coming up. It's just a steady instalment. They get this infection off the Tchaikovsky, they get back to the ship and it starts to spread, and that gives everyone the chance to start acting a little bit out of what they would consider normal. Particularly Data and Captain Picard. They seem to get all the funniest stuff. Geordi, I don't know whether it's a kind of reflection of how they would be when they are drunk. Geordi becomes very somber and just kind of doesn't really do much actually. He's just kind of the guinea pig for Dr. Crusher to try and find a cure. Whereas Captain Picard, Dr. Crusher just has to breathe on him and he is intoxicated. Does that mean Captain Picard is a lightweight? I don't know. It's probably completely dissimilar to having actual alcohol, but the suggestion is there maybe that Captain Picard can't hold his ale. Just breathe on me with alcohol and I'm just like, whee! And then Data, I think he gets it sexually transmitted to him by Tasha Yar in her quarters. That scene is now infamous with Star Trek The Next Generation. I think we've all... if you haven't seen the episode, it's a bit like the Sulu picture. You haven't seen the episode, but you do know the scene. Fully functional, I think is how he puts it. Ultimately, it's a Wesley Saves the Day episode. They set him up at the start of the show with his little toy doing the tractor beam, and he turns it into a repulsor beam, and he just says, why can't I just do this with the real thing? And he literally just presses some buttons on a screen and manages to make the Enterprise tractor beam turn into a repulsor beam and pushes away off the Tchaikovsky. Now, he does destroy what... I know there isn't money in the future, but he does destroy a very valuable vessel doing that. I know he saves the crew, but... no repercussions whatsoever for Wesley. I mean, I don't know. It's a stretch. I mean, in a couple of episodes they reward him with a place on the bridge. Good lad. Ultimately, it's got some nice moments in it. As a whole, it's just okay. But some of the moments are terrific. Crusher and Picard in his ready room, and the infamous Data Tasha scene. It's got it going on. There's bits and pieces to enjoy in this episode. It's not a complete dud as I remembered it being. So I think there's a lot to like in actually The Naked Now, and I'm pretty impressed actually at how it looks, especially the updated version. I'm going to keep saying that to go through all of these episodes. Not so noticeable in season 3 onwards, the updated versions, the improved special effects, but certainly in season 1 and 2 the updated effects look fantastic. They really do make the episodes pop off the screen really crisply, and you're not questioning the special effects so much anymore. Anyway, let's move on and dig into the trivia a little bit and find out some of the stuff that goes on behind in this episode. So this is my nomination for the best bit in The Naked Now, and it's only a little bit, only lasts a few seconds. It's down in engineering. You have Riker and the chief engineer, and it's a nice use of imagination and camera angles. You've got a little chap there building his little brick tower of control chips. Wesley, I'm not sure, he's doing tractor beams, and they're trying to get into where he is so they can start putting those chips back. And this is it. They just have a camera, some pipes, and they give Riker and this lady a couple of glow sticks, and they're just poking them around. Then they take a little look. Hasn't worked. Let's start poking around a bit more. I think that's just pure creativity right there. Doing it cheap, quick, simple, and yet it conveys everything you need to know about what they're doing. Yeah, it's so kind of silly because they're just these little light sticks. I love it. Best bit by far. So this first bit of trivia is delightful. You've got Riker and Data searching through the records, trying to find where this shower scene took place, and things are flashing up on the screen, and you briefly see what looks like a bird. If I freeze that and enlarge it for you, you can see quite clearly it's Gene Roddenberry, and he's even got a little communicator on his chest, and it's a little homage to his nickname of being the Great Bird of the Galaxy. It's in there. I haven't altered that myself. That really is in there, and it's a really nice little thing. But you'd never notice it on the VHS copy. I never did. I read about it, but it's really obvious in these Blu-ray editions that that is exactly what it is. It's rather nice. So in this scene on the Tchaikovsky, we're treated to Geordi entering the crew quarters and finding all the frozen bodies and the lady in the shower. The chairs in this scene, they're from the original show. So these chairs are over 100 years old apparently. I know we have chairs that are 100 years old in our houses, but I think in the 24th century they probably would have ditched those and had new ones built for this flagship, but apparently not. They need to drag out the old seconds from their storage. Considering you can create things from anything in the future with replicators, they're still dragging out the old furniture. It's like the old garden furniture that gets dragged indoors when you have family around and you haven't got quite enough chairs. Go and get the plastic seats from outside, dear. So like in the last episode, I'm going to read you out the casting call that went out to all the talent agencies in Hollywood looking for Commander Riker this time. Let's take a look. Number 1, aka William Riker, spelled with a Y. He's a 30 to 35-year-old Caucasian born in Alaska. He is a pleasant-looking man with sex appeal, of medium height, very agile and strong, a natural psychologist. Number 1, as he is usually called, is second in command of the Enterprise and has a very strong, solid relationship with the captain. So the director, Paul Lynch, has stated in interviews that he thinks The Naked Now is his best work on the Next Generation, or the most fun he had. Depends how you can read some of those comments. But there's the other episodes that he did work on as director in TNG, and I'd have to disagree with you, Mr. Lynch, I'm afraid. The Naked Now is not your strongest episode. There are better episodes of Star Trek that you made, notably either Matter of Time or The First Duty, I would think. Let me know below which one you think is his best directorial work. So this is a fascinating image plucked out of the pages of Star Trek The Next Generation 365. An absolutely fantastic book if you've got an interest in the show. Full of glossy pictures, loads of behind the scenes imagery and stories. Well worth picking up. It's relatively new. This image is of Andrew Probert. He was in the first episode. He designed the Enterprise D, and they were trying to come up with the font for the new show, and he remembered he did a font for the motion picture, and that's the photograph insert next to some of his designs for a shuttlecraft. And so he designed that font a good sort of 8-9 years earlier, and then it just got resurrected and redesigned ever so slightly to become the Next Generation font. And a beautiful piece of design. The way the letters have the invisible line running through the text is just delightful. I love this guy's work. I would like one of your drawings, please, Mr. Probert. If I get an original, that'd be super sweet. At the bottom you can see his first initial draft for the saucer section separating. He was told that it would suddenly need to be separated, and that wasn't in his original drawings that it could do that, so that's his first idea for it, and it's half the saucer section with its own warp drive, which would have made a lot of sense for storytelling. So it's a shame it didn't happen, but then again they probably write themselves into some corners if you could have two warp capable sections to the ship. I'm not sure how that would pan out, but it wasn't to be. It was only going to be under Impulse, which proved its own sticky point for plot holes in the future. Anyway, that's a fascinating page from that book, and you'll be seeing a couple more images turn up in these videos from that book and many others when they're pertinent and I'm making a point. So the very first problem I think with this episode that I'm going to talk about in this video comes at the very start after the opening credits have finished. Picard makes his log entry and makes a statement, and then we're going to talk about his statement. So let's listen to what he has to say at the very beginning. It won't take very long, just listen to this.
Captain's log supplemental. We are downloading the research information gathered on the collapsing star nearby. I am concerned at being in such close orbit, but that Tsiolkovsky's research records will no doubt predict the time of the star's final collapse.
Right, so they're near a star that's going to explode. Right, it's a ticking time bomb, and they're there, and right now nothing is wrong with their ship, nothing at all. It's working perfectly. The only person infected is Geordie, and right now they're not even sure about that. So why do they stay in close proximity to this star that's going to explode soon with a science vessel there? There's absolutely no reason to. He could just lock on the tractor beam, tow away the Tchaikovsky at impulse speed, and just move away from it. Look, it's right there. It's a freaking bomb just waiting to go off. And well, obviously they can't, because that would just ruin the whole story if there wasn't a Jeopardy plot at the last half of the story. So that's why it's in there, but it's also a glaring why. Why would you sit next to that thing? No idea. TV shows. Gotta love them. So quite a few of these nits in this episode, they happen because the story has to happen, and the story takes precedence. You just have to throw logic out of an airlock and just say, no, we can't. Don't even think about that because the story has to happen. So they've just heard the hatch being blown on the Tchaikovsky, and they beam over there. And they wear no environmental suits, bio-suits to protect them from potential infection. They know something's gone seriously wrong on that ship. But they just go over there anyway, because they've got to get infected. They need to get infected so the story can happen. It's unfortunate sometimes that this has to occur, but in this episode it's particularly rife with lots of why don't they just? Many of them, so we'll move on to the next.
Picard to engineering. Chief engineer, report to the bridge. Assistant Chief Engineer Shimoda, report to medical.
So we've just seen Wesley use his box of tricks to summon a couple of personnel. Now normally everyone gives some kind of acknowledgement on their communicator, or just says it out loud, and the computer relays the message back to the person who sent the message so they know that they've heard it. It's just common courtesy to say, aye, aye sir, I'm on my way, whatever. Or aye sir, something to do with ships at sea or something, aye aye. Neither of them do it, because then that would be a very, very short episode again, because they wouldn't leave, and then Wesley couldn't take control of engineering, and there'd be no jeopardy. The next bit is that the assistant chief engineer decides to leave engineering and says there's no one here that can watch engineering while he's gone. And yet in the background there are several officers, or uncommissioned officers, or just general crewmen, who would be qualified 10 times over more than Wesley to sit in that little chair there and watch engineering. So it's just another glaring, what? There's people in the background that could do it for you. Don't have to get Wesley to do it. He's not the only person in engineering, and he is just a boy. At the moment he's not gifted, he's not Wesley, he's just Wesley. So it's just another plot hole. And we've got some more. So they're in engineering trying to get Wesley out. Why don't they just beam in? That force field emitter looks like it's a very tightly projected beam of energy coming out from the strip at the front of that gadget, and it's projecting into that doorway. That's all it's doing. So you've got these glass panels, they're probably made of that transparent aluminum stuff from Star Trek 4, or an advanced version of it. I'm sure they could phaser their way through that glass, They could phaser their way through the deck above or the deck below, or they could just beam in and or beam him out. Do something. But no, we've got to fiddle around with those little light sticks, which I absolutely love. So yeah, I'm quite happy to have the light sticks, to be honest. But they could just do something else other than just trying to fiddle with electronics to get in there. They just don't explore all their options. So this is a good one. Look how many pillows are under Geordie's head. He's in sickbay. 2 pillows, distinctly 2 pillows under his head. Dr. Crusher goes back to her office to God knows what, look up some information. And while she's doing this, someone is creeping in, and they've just stolen one of Geordie's pillows from under his head. Who is it? I think they should devote a whole new episode to the pillow thief, is what they'd call it. And it's some little minxter that likes to go around the ship just whipping pillows out from under sick people's heads. We'll keep an eye on that in future episodes. And when she comes back, guess what? The look on her face, it's happened again. She's like, where's my pillows? Damn it. Geordie's taken my pillows. It's a good one, that. So welcome to the scoreboard. Action at the top, mystery bottom left, romance bottom right. Neutral zone being just good, okay episodes. Last time we put Encounter at Farpoint on the edge of the neutral zone, just inside it. A lot better than I remember that episode. If I just zoom in, you'll see there's the Naked Now with its little star. So let's push this around a bit. Now, there's a bit of romance in this episode, you know, probably more romance than there is action. But definitely a mystery. They're trying to work out what is going on with this virus. So let's push it down towards mystery and a little bit towards romance, with everyone getting lucky, particularly Data. And it's a lot more fun than I actually remembered it being, having just rewatched it. So I'm going to put this right on the edge of the neutral zone towards the romance side. About there. Now I'm happy. Where's Code of Honor going to go? At least we're going to get into the action section, I think, perhaps on that one. Not a mystery. Not really a romance. It's going to be up there in the action somewhere. Tune in next week to find out. So I think this is going to be a trend. The Naked Now was better than I thought it would be. It seems that this season 1 has actually got some little nuggets in it. Maybe not the episode as a whole, but it's got some nice little bits in this episode in particular. The Crusher and Captain Picard scenes towards the end of the episode when they're flirting. That's pretty funny to watch, and as is the Data and Tasha scene, which has generally become infamous. So there's some good stuff in this episode, and I'm quite pleased to report it's well worth a watch. Next week we have got Code of Honor. Tasha fights to the death. So tune in for that. Take care, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.